Thank you, Shah, for the short introduction. As you mentioned, my name is Michael Stan, and I help businesses and individuals in making their finances simple. So I help those entities in managing their finances, literally. My experience is 10 plus years in the financial industry. I was working as a financial advisor for over 5 years. Um, just to give you my quick history, then I started running my own business. I realized that as a financial advisor, and unfortunately didn't learn much about how to manage finances of the business. And so because of all of that stuff that was happening with my business, I was forced to close it because of that lack of financial education, I would say. And so that put me into becoming an accountant, bookkeeper, and studying for a few years how to actually not make the same mistakes that I made before. And now we are in the process of building the tools that help people like me in the past, that doesn't have financial education, to provide them with the tools in to make it easy. Let me say it this way. And so today we are going to talk about, on some way, quite easy stuff, but for some people it may look difficult if you don't have, any financial education or Excel skills, or don't have really interest into that kind of stuff. It may be quite difficult. So, how to build financial models? What is important in the financial models? And how to value your company. So, in the I guess the second part of that webinar, I would like to show you guys the example of the Excel spreadsheet. How is it built? What is important in what kind of stuff you need to put in your financial model so it makes sense, and how to later on make the valuation works for you and for the investors, because many of you may not imagine, but that's kind of a tricky part, to not sell too much of your company, but to make the investor happy, if that's something that you're interested in as well. The valuation is also important if you would like to sell the company completely, not just partially to the investor. So I'm gonna try to put as much information as possible, so you guys can do it by yourself if you want to. But if you would like to have some automation tools to do that, like I said before, I'm in the process of building them. So I will be looking for a beta tester. So if that's something that you would like to do after that webinar, please don't hesitate to contact me.
I totally agree with you, Tom. Sorry,
Michael.
Michael. Um, you know, as an innovator myself, um, I most of the time I struggled in my past with finance. I'm not that much. I don't have that much understanding of finance previously, but I trained myself, because when you have a innovation, you need to think about your finance, and how you will run the finances, as well as how you can attract investors to invest on your business. And the entire process was very, very difficult for me. And I also can see around those businesses that I mentor, as well I support them individually with various aspects. Finance and understanding the core value is difficult. Is difficult. So today, I hope you will give a light to our audiences to understand how they can value their startups, and as well as some understanding, if they are not startups, if they are maybe SMEs and running their business more than 3 or 4 years old or 5 years old, how they can value it. So we were going to touch those points specifically. First, we wanted to ask you some questions in related why it is needed, and how much efforts do we need to add on. Before I jump into our questions, to the audience, if you wanted to ask us anything, you can utilize the comment box. So we already have a comment from Mahbub, so I'm just going to show that one. So he said, "Welcome to our live webinar. Michael Stand have a insightful session." So Mahbub is our back office team, and we work together to support businesses. So thank you, Mahbub, for your message, and we will.
Before you ask any question, I would love to know whether there are any startups in the audience and what kind of stage they are, because like the valuation and the financial model for different stages may differ a little bit. So it would be good to actually get some insights on that. But yeah.
So to the audience, if you have any startup, you wanted to ask any question related to the startups, or if you, as I said, if you are SMEs and you are working for 3-4 years and you wanted to evaluate your company, because sometimes you might need to sell your company, but you need to know the right price tag as usual, because without that it's very difficult. So we're going to be talking to that, but please feel free to ask us through the comment box. We are just getting some comments, but we're going to be asking these questions later. I just wanted to ask you, Michael, the first thing is that why we need to evaluate our company, even at this startup. I know that most of our audiences, they will understand it, but I wanted to know from a professional person why it is important, why we need to evaluate our company.
Well, like you said, the main point of valuation of your company, or like I said before, is to either you want to sell your business to the investors, or you want to sell your business completely because you just want to get an exit. So there are two options most of the time. You want to sell part of your business and raise funding to grow your business, or go take an exit and just take the money for your business. So that's why most in those two cases you would want to value your business.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. We have some early stage investors within our live audience today. So Rick has written. I'm just going to go over to Rick messages because it's relevant to the message that we are talking about. Is hi, I'm in the idea stage with my startup, which aims to offer low interest loans. Thank you, Rick, for your information. But do you have any question to ask? If you could have asked the questions, that would be great, that we can discuss of your early stage investments and how you can evaluate your company. We all have another question from Salahuddin Biplov. Can you provide an example of when to use discounted cash flow over comparable company analysis and vice versa? You can see the questions on the screen.
Okay, so you want me to answer them now?
If you want, or we can keep it for later. We just need related questions.
No. We can go through that discounted cash flow question and comparable company analysis. So I will give the quick one. So for example, if you are evaluating a mature company with a history of steady cash flows and dividends, and you can reasonably predict its financial future, discounted cash flow would be more appropriate over the comparable method. But if you have like a lot of companies that you can compare your startup to it, that would be actually a good benchmark to see how other companies are doing in the same sector, and that would give you a good point of valuation of your company, because you can see for how much they have in the past have sold their companies, and so how much the investors have been paying them and how much they raise. So that's a very good comparison, and that's where you would do it. But that obviously involves a lot of analysis in terms of your competition, which as a startup and any stage you should do all the time anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're trying to raise investment, especially if you're trying to build your business in the competitive space. That
Mm-hmm.
kind of analysis should be done, because if the market is oversaturated, there you shouldn't even start that business, or you should double check whether you actually should go into that market, because maybe there is no need for the product and you're just gonna waste money.
That's thank you for the information, because to the audience, sometimes we do not understand the specific the market proposition, because when you are bringing a product, your idea is always valuable, and you know that with a specific idea, when we wanted to bring a new product and services to the market, we think that it will transform the world and we will be millionaire. But things are not like that. You have to work through with it, and there are stages, various stages, I would say, Michael, before you understand the value of your company, early start company. So in relation to that, can you specifically point it out to the audience that what you need to look into it before you start evaluating your company? What are the core principles that you need to understand?
Well, I think the most important part of any valuations are finances, because the valuations is related to finances. Therefore, before you start valuating your company, there should be a strong either financial forecast or financial statements in
Mm-hmm.
your company, depending whether you are an early stage or a little bit later one.
Mm-hmm.
Rick said that he's at the idea stage. Therefore, for him, it would be the best way for him would be to actually build a financial model
Mm-hmm.
um, that will allow him to forecast the next 4 or 5 years, and based on those forecasts, based on those costs that he will input in that model, based on the revenues that he will have, on the cash flow projections, what kind of investment he will need. Based on all of that stuff, then
Mm-hmm.
he can actually create different valuations methods, sorry, and have the benchmark to propose to the investors.
Okay. And if you could tell a bit more, um, if we're going to give an example later, as we discussed previously, um, to the audience that okay, I have an idea. I'm in early stage. When I'm doing revenue forecast for my future plan, meaning financial projections or anything else, how important it is to value my product and services.
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
When we have a product and services, how
Yeah.
important it is to value the actual product and services that I'm going to be offering.
Well, yeah. It's as important as making revenue to your business, I guess. I would say if you don't know whether your revenue is profitable at the end of the day,
Mhm,
that will impact all of your business,
mhm,
because you won't be able to become profitable, because that revenue won't be profitable.
mhm,
So if you have different kinds of revenue streams, and one of them is not profitable but it brings you a lot of customers, where the other one is super profitable but it just converts those customers that the other brought, then that that knowledge, which one is which, it's very helpful. And it's extremely important to know which of the revenue streams brings what kind of money, and where you can actually cut the cost, or
mhm,
what could you do to improve the gross margins on any of those revenue streams.
mhm.
Because at the end of the day, the profitability of your business is one of the key metrics that at the later stage the investors or yourself will look at. If your business doesn't generate revenue, if your business doesn't make money, it's not really a business.
I totally agree with you, because when we are early stage innovators, sometimes we, as I said previously, that we value our idea than the market proposition or than the placements, because when we have, if you're a father, to our audience, if you have any children, you will understand that your children are the best in the world. And it's a similar way when we bring product and services. This would be the best idea. But when you wanted to actually assess the product or services, you have to think behind the scenario. Like, okay, this is the idea, this is great and brilliant idea, but is it worthwhile to bring this idea to the market? Because as you said previously, that you need to assess your product and services, that okay, uh, why you should bring this to the market. Is it valuable, or it will give you the strength, or it has weaknesses, or a lot of individual things that you need to look into. So when I work with individual businesses, that the 4 Ps that we look into at the beginning, that okay, these 4 Ps, 4P, if you search online, you will find the details of 4 Ps, because that is important. And then the valuation of your product, and then person like Michael can support you with specifically how you evaluate it, and how you can get to the finance people, or how you hire people as well, because uh, your revenue forecast should be in a way that it will include all of your direct debits, business venture, your office rent, and how much you're going to be earning in future. So a lot of different things. So Michael, my next question is, uh, how many elements do you need to look into? Like I said, that okay, you have to have office rent, you have to have direct debits, you have to a lot of other things. What are the other core things that you need to look into before you start your revenue forecast or something like that?
Yeah, so as I already mentioned before, there are few main bits before for really building a financial model, and then
Mhm,
assessing the value of your business. Starting from the one of the most important, which is revenue streams. You need to know what kind of revenue your business will have, they how your business will make money eventually.
mhm,
The other one, and I think that's the most important one, is your costs. Like you said, like rent, probably utilities, some software subscription depending on the business. Salaries. Salaries are one of the largest costs for any kind of business, and a lot of people who struggle with business finances, they end up in bankruptcy because they are not able to pay wages anymore.
mhm,
And yeah, that was one of my experiences with my early business, almost 10 years ago,
mhm,
where I didn't have enough money to run that business anymore. Therefore I was forced to close it. So yeah, the costs are the most important part that every business owner should know,
mhm,
on the top of their finger, I would say. Cash flow projections, which is how much money will you have in the future. I think you mentioned that as well, a second ago. Why this is important, and a lot of people undervalue actually cash flow a
mhm,
lot. If you don't know where you're going, how you want to get there? I
mhm,
don't know if people understood what I mean, but like the cash flow show you the future of where you are actually able to get if you execute on your plan.
mhm,
And it will also allow you to make better financial decisions now, and check whether you can make certain purchases that won't affect your future. So, for example, if you would like to buy a car, that was a question of one of my customers a month ago.
mhm,
She didn't know whether she can afford in next month to buy a car.
mhm,
So that's why we've modeled all of her finances and made a cash flow projection and show her that in June she will be able to buy that car. And so that's the third point of financial modeling. Then based on those things, which is like revenues, costs, you can figure out whether you need money or maybe you don't need to raise money. Maybe you don't actually need that extra funding to your business. And if you don't know that, you're gonna start raising funds and
Mhm.
selling your business, even though if you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
So that would be another part of the financial model that you would have to find out. And in terms of an extra bits that you will find out from building financial model is the different financial ratios that are important for those investors, but also it should be really important for you because they give you certain information.
Mhm.
The ratios I'm talking about are like customer acquisition cost, for example, extremely important, lifetime value of your customers, monthly recurring revenue, and churn rate. I would say knowing how many people is dropping off and making sure that that amount is as least as possible. It's very important as well for your business and for future revenue streams.
Thank you, Michael. So to the audience, if you wanted to ask us any question, feel free to ask us through the comment box. And today we have Michael Stan from Uniflow, and I'm Dr. Shah Siddiqui, Time Research and Innovation and Zenzi Marketing. We are specialized in software development and technology enhanced decision making through specifically data driven marketing tactics. So we have Michael Stan today talk about how you can evaluate your company, early startup. And we will jump into the next section in a few minutes' time. Before I jump to the next section, I just wanted to ask you one of the questions that Salaudin has asked. Um, what are some key considerations when projecting revenue for a startup with no historical financial data?
Okay. Well, I think one I already talked about, which is one of the most important, and I will repeat it. You need to know what you're selling and how much you're selling it for, which is pricing.
Mhm.
But the other one that I did not touch on yet is your customer segmentation. So you need to know who you're gonna sell it to, and you need to know whether they will buy it from you.
Mhm.
You also need to know how many of those people are out there
Mhm.
who are ready to buy from you. Because without that knowledge, you cannot really assess the end profit, the end revenues,
Mhm.
without knowing how many customers you can reach. Um, that this is the funny play actually between how many customers you can reach, how much you're gonna charge for. Because by playing that game, maybe more customers I need to reach, maybe more I need to charge, less customers, more charge, more customer, less charge. Then you're finding out whether your pricing model is correct, but you also finding out how many people you need to reach and whether you are actually able to reach them.
Mhm.
Then the next stage, when you get into that some number of customers or some number of people that you want to reach, you can figure out, okay, how much that's going to cost me on the advertising side. So that is connected also to the costs of that financial model. So then you can figure out, okay, to advertise on LinkedIn, to advertise on Instagram, there are different costs associated with it, and you won't be able to figure out those costs until you actually figure out how many customers you want to reach and how many of those customers will turn into paying customers. So yeah, I think if you are assessing something like startup without any historical financial data,
Mhm.
you need to first find out how many customers you want to reach, how many customers you are able to reach,
Mhm.
and what money you will charge them.
Thank you, Michael. So thank you, people, for your questions. So to the audience, if you wanted to ask Michael anything related to finance, please feel free to ask us. And you can also have a strategic session from him with free of cost. If you wanted to book that, feel free to contact him or DM him through LinkedIn and all other social channels. And we are doing live broadcast our webinar as usual on YouTube, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. So we wanted to jump to the next segment for the audience to understand how they will do financial planning. But before that, I just wanted to share something with you that I wanted to previously. I think a couple of years back when I started my I was just early startups, and I'm just assessing my feasibilities and others so on. So luckily, I was able to contact someone like a person with like you, but they were asking me if I want to evaluate my ideas, I have to go through with a course, and that course will cost me £3,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and why I said luckily, because if I wouldn't contact that person and know about the cost associated to understand how much your business is well evaluated, I wouldn't come to this stage. So, but I did not take that opportunity. I learned, and then went a different path. So, in relation with evaluation and spending, what would be your ideal response to the audience? If some people they might have funding to spend on, and some people they might not have funding to spend on. So, what would be the key scenario for the earliest investors to look into or think before they jump into spend thousands of pounds to a person, even they have gaps with their startups?
Well, that's a very broad question, I would say. It depending on the startup, obviously, but I think the main point in any business is to figure out whether will anyone want to pay you money for your services or products, right?
Mhm,
And whether you will be able to reach those end customers.
mhm,
So I think a lot of early stage startups starts from development.
mhm,
And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are actually talking about this, that when you early stages you start from the development and then you learn that you actually shouldn't supposed to start from the customer discovery, rather than the other way around, because you put X amount of months into development without even knowing whether there is a market for it.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, so I think that would be the first step, and the problem that a lot of I believe early stage startup has.
mhm,
Um, but in terms of what kind of problems do they face with financial modeling, I would say is very often, if people are doing that without the expertise,
mhm.
they put over optimistic numbers,
Okay.
which very often can lead to two different scenarios. One, that their valuation based on those numbers will be too big,
Mhm,
and the second one is that because those numbers are so good, no one will believe them.
okay.
Okay, because if you are early stage pre-revenue and you have 10 billions or 20 billions of pounds
Mhm,
in your financial model after 5 years, that may be a little bit, you know there can be a question mark next to that.
okay.
And so the making that financial model as realistic as possible and make like three different versions of it, so
Mhm,
you can play with different numbers and show the investors different perspectives of how it's gonna be, if it's gonna be bad. That's what I think we will go for, and that's what I think it's gonna be if we're gonna succeed more than I'm thinking that we will. So having those three scenarios is it would be a good approach for everyone who is trying to do it by themselves, and that's what I would um, suggest. If you really have financial knowledge and like Excel, just do
mhm.
it by yourself. You can learn. If you don't, just contact me.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. We're just going to jump into your specifically hands-on training today. So, to viewers, if you wanted to have your pen and paper ready, please feel free to have your pen and paper ready, or maybe a Microsoft Excel with the statistics. But Don't worry too much because Michael will share these Microsoft Excel sheets with you later.
Interesting.
Please DM him or DM me after these events, and then he will share this with you. And specifically, if you wanted to talk to him directly with your early startup or maybe SMEs aged over 3 to 5 years, you can directly contact him for the evaluation because he will not charge at the beginning. But later you will understand the valuation, not spending thousands to a financial advisor before you understand how extensive your idea is. So, Michael, I'm just going to share your screen to the audience. Are you ready?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to be sharing Michael's screen to you. And we're just gonna go to a different way, so you can see his screen, and I will just Michael, if you could start describing
Yeah, of
what
course.
is this and how it will benefit our audience greatly.
Okay, so the goal of showing you that is to really show you. I would like you to. I would like to take you on the journey of how I'm thinking of creating a financial model and where do I start usually when I'm working with people, so you can actually do it by yourself if you want to.
Mm-hmm,
This financial model have actually quite a lot of revenue streams
mm-hmm,
that are separated in the phases.
mm-hmm,
Okay, so I can show you that you don't have to put all of your revenue streams straight away, but it's valuable to actually have them all together in that financial model.
mm-hmm,
And so where I when I'm starting building a financial model, I always start from how many people I am able to reach, and
mm-hmm,
we talked about this already, and what kind of revenue streams I'm going to have. So I'm leaving the cost at the moment.
mm-hmm,
I'm just focusing on how many people and how many revenue streams will I have. So that's why I always think that that's an example of actually SaaS business. So
mm-hmm,
it's a like subscription model company. Um, and so I always say how many people I can actually reach, what kind of burn rate, what kind of churn rate will I have. Churn rate is how many cancellations will
mm-hmm,
I have, and how many numbers of end of subscribers will I have month by month.
mm-hmm,
What that will give me, it will give me the first point on which I can always go back to in terms of calculating how much revenue will I have
mm-hmm,
from each of the revenue streams, because each revenue stream will bring you some money, but
mm-hmm,
not each revenue stream will be based on 100% of your customers. But it may be also, if you have certain services that every single customer needs to buy,
mm-hmm,
then it will be 100%. But most of the time in the SaaS businesses, we see between 1 to 10% of those users of yours that are turning into actual customers.
mm-hmm,
Okay, so having that number of customers at the beginning, for me, from my point of view, it's
mm-hmm,
incredibly important, because like I said, it allows you to month by month uh, show you how many customers you will have,
mm-hmm,
and then you can realize, okay, am I able to actually bring 1,300 customers, 1,300 people to my business on a monthly basis?
mm-hmm,
Am I able later on to bring 6,500 customers on that daily basis?
mm-hmm,
I am. And now the question is how? Advertising. And then you're asking yourself more and more questions, which brings you to the cost of, okay, I am able to do it, but I need that X amount of money to spend on advertising. I need the Y amount of money to spend on people who are gonna help me with advertising. I need to spend Z amount of money on different subscription that will automate different processes. So there is a lot of different stuff that comes just with figure out how many customers you have. So that's why that's always my main point, and that's why this should be one of the main things that people should start doing before even starting building anything, or you know while thinking about the starting the business, they should start thinking about those customers first. It's not as energizing and amazing to do that, but it will save so much money in the long run. Incredible. Anyway, let's go into the to the revenue stream itself. So
Mhm.
as you can see, that revenue stream has the unit price, how much that particular business will charge the customer for that service. And then we have sales revenue, which is how much.
Michael, sorry for
Yeah,
the interruption. Can you zoom it, because I think it's very little view for
I
to
can.
see what has been written here. So I think if you do it a zoom, then maybe our audience they will understand what you have written so far.
Is that better?
Still very small.
Or it's super big on mine?
It's getting a little bit better now. Maybe a little bit more. So to the audience, if you can see it, please thumbs up, or if you cannot, we will make it a little bit more bigger. Um, and feel free to ask us the questions, because your questions will make this session interactive. We can answer specifically if you are looking to get help and support from Michael and myself. Yeah, I think that's better. That's better.
Okay. So yeah, so then you go. I'm just gonna go quickly through everything what is here, and then we can go into details if people want. But so let's go. We have the revenue streams.
Mhm.
This is so big on my screen.
Mhm.
Let's go through all of those revenue streams. Then, based on those revenue streams, we are able to actually assess what are the cost of sales, what
Mhm.
are the gross profits, which is the total revenue minus cost of sales, and then
Mhm.
what's the gross margin on those products, on all of your products. Okay. Then we're going into operational expenses, and one of the main operational expenses, as I
Mhm.
mentioned already, are salaries and wages.
Yeah.
They are one of the largest costs of any business,
Mhm.
and that's why unfortunately you can see that a lot of tech businesses at the moment has been, well, letting go a lot of people, because that was really that is one of the main costs of their business. And if their revenues are dropping, unfortunately they need to look where they can save as much money as possible. And unfortunately the wages are the biggest part of it, so it's the easiest one to cut when you're trying to generate more profits for your business.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we have wages, we have salaries. You can put different kinds of types of employees that you want to have.
Mhm.
Then you have the rest of the operational expenses, and in this one we have rent, we have different amortization, depreciations, phone, whatever cost that your business incurs, you should put over here.
Mhm.
Like, it's a SaaS business, so they have servers, a server cost. They
Mhm.
have, customer onboarding costs, different professional fees in the later stage, insurance.
Mhm.
Um, then we have capital expenses. With the SaaS business, that won't be a lot of them. One of the largest capital expenses maybe is the R&D, especially at the early stage, which a lot of people doesn't realize that is actually an R&D cost in the SaaS business, but it is. And so that would be over here. But if you have an office, you will have, different furnitures. If you have employees, you will have laptops, phones, different kinds of that kind of stuff are capital expenses. And then we're gonna have funding. There are two different. Well, there is a lot of different ways of funding your business, but the main ones are debt and equity. Um, and and yeah, so they are under the funding. Then we have profit and loss, very simplified, and the cash flow, which for me is one of the most important parts of the financial model, or really one of the most important part of running the business itself. Like I mentioned before as well, like, if you know the future, if you know where you're going, and if you know how that future may look like, it's much easier to actually plan all of your expenses.
Mhm.
And then we have very simplified balance sheet. And we have few ratios, which is that is for very early stage business that doesn't generate revenue
Mhm.
yet. And so there are customer acquisition cost and lifetime value of your customer, which will change drastically over both of those costs will actually change drastically as you go along with the years of running your business.
Mhm.
And so we can go through each of those points, but before we go there, I would like to also show um, how that would look like. I don't know if that's. Let me just zoom out a little bit so you can see everything. And so then that was month to month. So you can see, and you should start really from month to month, so then you can get the summary of it. And that part is the part that the investor will look first, because they don't want to go in details without you. Really, they want to see what's the potential, what do you have in your head in
Mhm.
terms of your business, especially if you're not generating any revenue. What kind of revenue streams you have in the very compact form, okay, and how
Mhm.
much revenue they will generate. And then we have the same numbers, but just put it on the yearly basis. And they're just more visible for the end investor or for the end buyer. um, a lot of people who are investing in businesses or buying businesses are looking at the earnings before interest and tax. It just shows how your business is doing before actually adjusting for all of the other costs.
Mhm.
And it just showed to those investors how good is your business, how good is your business in generating revenues.
Mhm.
Okay. And so that's why a lot of investors are actually looking at this, because they know whether the business is able to generate revenue very quickly. They
Mhm.
just need to cut costs to make more money, or there will be a long way to actually generate more cost, uh, more revenue, because the business is at the moment not ready. And so
Mhm.
then we have four different versions of valuations. Those valuations are, well, three of them are strictly for the very early stages.
Mhm.
The DCF, which is discounted cash flow valuation, is for early stages, but also can be used, and it's actually better if we use it for revenue generating companies.
Mhm.
And so I would like to go through them as well in a second. We have 14 minutes. It would
Mhm.
be good to know what is you know, where should I go first? What should I focus on? Because there's 14 minutes. Maybe we don't have enough time to go through everything.
No, 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 we don't. So a few things that I wanted to drag your attention to. First thing is that you know that okay, we have a revenue models. We can get this model or U framework to our innovations to understand that how much it's worth. But you know, in what stage we should think about it, because uh, when I started my business into in these last one, the time research and innovation, it was 2019 when it was pandemic. And I did not think, that when you do financial projections, I did not do financial projections, and I wasn't withdrawing any money. The money I was uh, I was what I would say, the money I was getting from other sources, I was just investing those things, and I did not withdraw any funds that time. So I think most of the innovators, they do the same way, that okay, they don't think about their wages, or they don't think about the partner wages. How important it is for anyone to okay, evaluate their work and add the um, um, revenue stream with their salary.
Hmm. Well, it obviously depends how much money the business owner has
Mhm.
personally. Because if you don't need salary, especially at the early stages, I don't believe that the business owner pre-revenue should take the salary if they have something um, that they, that can support them in terms of the money flowing on the bank, the savings. If they do, if they don't have those savings and they don't have that emergency fund that they can actually live on,
Mm-hmm.
well, every startup, the startup world is very difficult and it's challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, I believe that if you don't have those options, you should obviously take the salary and make it, your full time salary. So not pay yourself 100K if you're not generating revenue. Be cautious about it because that is your cost,
Mm-hmm.
which, like we said already a few times, salaries and wages are one of the largest costs in the business. So
Mm-hmm.
just pay yourself enough to survive, I would say, on a daily basis, to make sure that you can push that business. And once the business generating revenue,
Mm-hmm.
then you can start increasing that cost, to really whatever your business is afford to pay. If your if your personal thing with your business is to not generate as much profit, but is to actually pay yourself more, then you can do it. Just before doing that, you need to make sure that your business generates profits.
Thank you, Michael. So, to our audience, if you're watching through LinkedIn or any other social media, feel free to access questions if you have any related to your listed startups. And if you wanted to know more about these calculations, please feel free to contact Michael or me, and I will share. We will share this document with you, and we can have a free strategic session with you to understand the financial projections. And it is very important for anyone. They have started their businesses, or they are maybe a 3 or 5 years old, to understand how much they're going to be earning in future. Doesn't matter that you are looking for an investment or you are not, but financial projection is going to be the core backbone of your company. So, Michael, please carry on the maybe a specific way um, to let our audience know that, as we don't have enough time to cover the entire scenario. So, if the most important bits, if you could cover.
Yeah. So let's go into the valuation,
Mhm,
because I think we didn't cover much of that, and I think it's quite important. So,
mhm,
as you can see over here, there are four different ways of valuing your startup, and there are those four ways
mhm,
are mainly for pre-revenue startups, very early stage startups,
mhm,
or businesses who are just thinking about, starting the business, or they already building, or they have some like few customers, but those customers doesn't pay them, so they're extremely early. Okay.
mhm,
So the easiest way to value your startup is that simple valuation which anyone can really do, and that valuation is based on how much money you need to cover your cost and
mhm,
how much equity you are able to sell.
mhm,
Okay, so there are two different ways. You can either value your business based on how much you want to sell. You want to sell, let's say, 10%, your valuation will go up,
mhm,
because you want to sell 20%, your valuation will go down. It's the simplest way of valuing your business you can do. The most difficult part in that valuation is to figure out how much money you actually need.
mhm,
Okay. And a lot of investors, or a lot of people who invest, they would like you to see to raise money enough for at least 18 months, especially nowadays where the
mhm,
market is a little bit more difficult. And so making sure that you can raise for 18 months, it means that it may be quite difficult to raise 1.7 million if you are just a startup and you don't generate any revenues.
mhm,
So that means that in this point in time, you need to actually go back to your numbers and adjust them.
mhm,
Because, first of all, you're not going to raise 1.7 million as far as you are not Elon Musk.
mhm,
And at the early stage, no one will pay you, well, in UK, no one will pay you 9 million,
mhm,
um, on the 9 million valuation.
Yes.
So that's why it's very important to have those numbers before, so you know that your financial model actually maybe needs to be adjusted if your goal is to raise funds, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the next point is DFC, which is discounted cash flow valuation, and this is much better. And I just wanted to show it
Mm-hmm.
because on the pre-revenue startups that's not really working, because you can have very big numbers at the end of 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and those numbers later on are discounted. So that model allows really investors to see how much money you will generate in 5 years, and how much that money that you generate will be worth based on the value of money today,
Mm-hmm.
because of the inflation, because of the cost of the money in 5 years will be worth less than it is today. So that method, valuation method, shows the investors how much money in the future will be worth today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is a little bit more difficult, especially in terms of building a discount rate, because it's based on a lot of different um, values that I'm not going to go deeply into. But judging the discount rate is one of the most difficult parts in building discounted cash flow method.
Mm-hmm.
But the average, if you want to do it, the average is around 10% for the early stage startup.
Mm-hmm.
For the later stages startup, that discounted rate will go a little bit lower.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to calculate the free cash flow. So how much money you will have free in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
What's the terminate value? And then you need to judge the cash flow value, which is based on those years and on the discount rate. And then it gives you the discounted cash flow, which is this value after the discount. So how much this money is worth today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you add all of those values, and you have the enterprise value, you add all of the debts that you will have, you add the cash, and you have the value of the business, which obviously it says it's 1 billion, but that was done in purpose on this model, because it's obviously not possible to raise money on the valuation of 1 billion. And that's the example of why that method shouldn't be always used for any kinds of startup. It
Mm-hmm.
can be used for some kinds of startup, but not always. Okay. Then we have another super simple method, which is a Berkus method, which is just says, okay, do you have a prototype? It's judging really on your stage of your company rather than on your finances. You can
Yeah.
do it. You can really do it that method even without any financial model. That's the only method you can use without financial model, because as you can see, it's literally, do you have prototype? Yes. Do you have quality management team? Yes. Do you have strategic partnerships? Yes. Do you have sales? Maybe? Yes. Any of those numbers cost you 500,000 in UK, 500,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the risk factor method, which is very similar, just much bigger to the Berkus method, and it calculates the value of your company based on the weighted averages. And so the goal of that is that you ask the business 10 to 12 different questions about different risks. So it's a risk factor method.
Mm-hmm.
And based on those risks, you add the value to, or deduct the value. Like, let's say in this case, you deduct the value of the company to, at the end of the day, get to the certain valuation of that company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, those are the four basics, and I think most used methods of valuation, the early stage startups. I think I managed to finish everything in the time.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. I just wanted to turn off our screen and to the audience. We are nearly end of our sessions. We had a great session today with Michael, and thank you very much for your time today. At the end, I just wanted to ask you, do you have a closing remarks? to the audience?
Do I have a closing remarks? I have one closing remark. I guess if you are a early stage startups, we have a beta going on at the moment that will help you build that kind of models and deliver them to the investors without any financial skills.
Mhm.
And will do all of the evaluation of your business in that software. So if you would be interested, I would encourage you to contact me and join that beta testing program. We're gonna run it for the next few weeks.
And it is
Um,
free.
yeah.
Is it
Sorry.
free? Is that free?
Yeah. 100%.
Okay, that's fine. So to the audience, thank you very much for your time today, and we had a very good session today, talking about financial modeling as well as understanding the evaluation and the value of your startup. If you wanted to contact Michael, feel free to contact him directly. Um, okay, Christopher has said that he has downloaded your app. Thank you, Christopher, for your message. And if you wanted to talk to Michael directly, feel free to contact him through our social channels, and he will be coming again, I think, next month with another episode of financial modeling. And we are planning to have an in-person session in Southampton, maybe after the summer break, school summer holidays in September or October, to work with individuals that how you can evaluate your company and do not spend that much money to a financial advisor, because that will, if you go to a financial advisor, it will cost you thousands of pounds to understand your and evaluate your company. So, Michael, thank you very much for your contribution today, and to our audience, thank you all for you joining to this webinar. And this webinar will be recorded, so if you wanted to go through a specific section, feel free to go through with it. And if you wanted to contact Michael, feel free to contact him. So Michael, thank you. Please stay on the line. I will say bye bye to the audience, and then we will go through with some important points for the next event. So thank you, everyone. I will welcome you next week with another guest, and hopefully we can give you some core understanding of social selling and business development. As you know that we are the company, we work together with the local businesses as well as mentors and marketing companies. So if you wanted to get support, feel free to contact me directly or DM me through LinkedIn. Otherwise, please support our work, and I will welcome you next week with another episode of Time Research and Innovation or Zenzi Marketing. So until then, stay tuned and support our work, and bye-bye for me. Thank you. Bye.